My name is Dr. Barry Tan. I earned my PhD in chemistry at the University of Otago in New Zealand some 30-something years ago. I came to the US to do my postdoctoral work at Auburn University, Alabama, where I concentrate and focus on cancer research and biochemistry. The first 12 of my years of my career, I was a chemistry professor at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Later, I joined the Food Science and Nutrition department as well. That leaves the remaining 20-25 years of my life where I left academia and looked for natural compounds in nature. I was very attracted to compounds that are lipid soluble, such as carotene, carotenoids, vitamin E, A, and D. Tocotrienols and tocopherols are part of the vitamin E family of compounds. Vitamin E is a group that contains tocopherols and tocotrienol. 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienol. They're with the 4 Greek letters alpha, beta, delta, and gamma. The 2 Greek letters you should remember is delta and gamma. And all published studies consistently top the list. Delta on the top and a close second, gamma. Delta tocotrienol and gamma tocotrienol. They're all natural. The tocopherols, all the vitamin E found in Kayani products are all natural. Actual difference between the molecule tocopherol and tocotrienol. The best way I can illustrate the difference is scientists refer to this as molecular weight. And I can think of the description of this if you can imagine with me a tadpole. It has a head and a tail. And a tocopherol would have a big head and a long tail. And a tocotrienol would have a small head and a short tail. So translated, the molecular weight of a tocotrienol will be small and a tocopherol would be large. What this means is that when you think of its movement in its protection, a tocotrienol would be able to cover a much larger surface area because of its dexterity and mobility. There are only 3 sources of tocotrienol, from rice, from palm, and from annatto. And all of these 3 sources, I've helped to bring it up to the extraction and then to commerce. So I know this really well. If you imagine 100% of this vitamin E, rice and palm contains 35 to 50% of the active tocotrienol. Annatto contains 100%. As well, rice and palm contains 25 to 50% tocopherol. Annatto is tocopherol free. Where my role is in its discovery of tocotrienol came about 13 years ago. Remember, my first love was in carotenoid. I went to look for lutein and zeaxanthin from the gigantic marigold flower. I did find it. But in the corner of my eyes, as fate might have it, 30 feet away, I saw the annatto plant. I knew about the annatto plant. I just didn't know the detail of this. This plant was green, turning red, maroon, and then brown as the pod seeks sunlight for its ripening. And when the pod opens, I noticed something. It does not have a flesh. If someone were to ask you if you think of a fruit, you obviously would think of the fleshy part with the succulent taste and the flavor. But with the annatto, there is no flesh. So this carotene colors intensely that of the seed, which you can see from the plant that we will show. Now this seed is colored red because of the carotene, and carotenes are intensely unstable. If you think of the foliage in New England, when it would show its brilliance for 2 weeks and then it'll turn brown thereafter, and also lobster, yucky green, you boil it, it'll turn beautiful red because the protein deproteinate from it. So then I asked the question, since nothing is protecting the seed, no flesh, no anything, what exactly is protecting this carotene from decomposition? It was that question that led me to the discovery of the vitamin E in annatto. And in short, it is free of tocopherol, it contains only tocotrienol, and furthermore, it contains the 2 most potent tocotrienol, the delta and gamma tocotrienol. And if you think of it, you can illustrate it this way. If you think of a cell membrane where this would protect like a bean, a tocopherol would be like that of a policeman. A tocotrienol would be like that of a state trooper. They both catch the bad guys. But a tocopherol stay in the boundary of the town like a police does. But a tocotrienol would go all over the state and it cover a much larger surface area. This has actually been shown again in UC Berkeley in the 1970s, where the tocotrienol is able to spin around the whole cell 50 times faster, and hence it is well known that tocotrienol is 50 times more potent than a tocotrienol. So that chronicled my discovery of tocotrienol from annatto. I would say that the focus of the tocotrienol came to its own in two big areas: cardiovascular diseases and cancer. These are published in the literature and anybody can go to search it. In the cardiovascular area, think of two areas. It has to do with cholesterol and it has to do with inflammation. Both of these two are major culprits in cardiovascular diseases. And then tocotrienol has been shown that in the cholesterol area, it directly lowers the cholesterol, the manufacture of cholesterol in the liver. And then in the inflammation area, is able to inhibit the inflammation. And when these studies were done on the cancer and cardiovascular benefit, consistently the one that topped the list is delta tocotrienol. A close second is gamma tocotrienol. And remember, in the annatto tocotrienol, it contains only delta and gamma tocotrienol, which is found in your sunset. And in the last question, why is tocotrienol, taking tocotrienol is better than taking tocopherol? Because tocopherol, when they have tested on these study regimen, it simply does not work. Tocopherol interferes with vitamin E functions, especially that of tocotrienol, and it interferes in these four clear categories. Tocopherol blocks the absorption of tocotrienol in the gut. If it survives to get into the gut, it mitigate or decrease the ability of the tocotrienol in the liver to lower cholesterol. And then it also water down and inhibit the ability of tocotrienol to kill the cancer. And lastly, when tocopherol is high in the body, it also causes the degradation, the destruction of the tocotrienol in the body. And by itself, tocopherol also could raise blood pressure, raise the cholesterol, and also stimulate drug in its decomposition, as it does with tocotrienol. In the things that I mentioned so far, how the tocopherol would interfere with the tocotrienol, and by itself, there are many studies that have been shown that the tocopherol would interfere with the function as well as mitigating all these effects that I mentioned. Here, I'm trying to describe the benefits of tocotrienol. I mentioned about cholesterol and inflammation. Essentially, tocotrienol works to reduce the production of cholesterol and also to inhibit the inflammation. And simplistically, inflammation is understood this way. When the blood gets sticky, it clings onto the cell wall, and that's not desirable. And the way that tocotrienol works is it develcronize the blood so that it would not cling onto the cell wall and would just flow through, which is what red blood cell is supposed to do. And then it's also benefits is in the area of diabetes and pre-diabetes. In diabetes, people know that the sugar is high. In pre-diabetes, you see, pre-diabetes, so it's not sugar. The triglyceride, the fat, a form of fat is high. And so that in point of fact, in pre-diabetes, when the triglyceride is high, the sugar is normal. But in diabetes, the sugar is high, the triglyceride is also high. And tocotrienol works to lower triglyceride. A fantastic thing for people pre-diabetes with 75 million of, and diabetes, we have 25 million people. Yet another emerging area is radiation countermeasure. This is done by the United States government at the Uniform Service University in Bethesda, Maryland. What they did was that they tested hundreds of different compounds, and they found that among the list of compounds that they have, 2 vitamin E compound is able to protect American soldiers, if successful, in harm's way when they walk into a radiation warfare zone. and that would be delta and gamma tocotrienol. It nearly floored me when I knew about this about 5-6 months ago. They published this in the last 2 years, and now if you derive this could be useful for a nuclear power plant, such as what's happening in Japan now, what had happened in Pennsylvania and in Russia, and to protect people because there is a radiation exposure. And even more down to earth, in the US alone, we have 13 million cancer survivors. Half of them have to go to radiation to kill the cancer. The intention is to kill the cancer. Might this tocotrienol be useful to protect the normal cell when they go to radiation 1? Might that also potentiate the cancer kill when they go into radiation, when the radiation is intended to kill the cancer? That's a question to be asked. We hope to explore, and other people explore this issue. And then in the other emerging areas of studies that would be covered soon in the years would be in the eyes, a problem of the eyes, nerve, GI tract, bone, and arteriosclerosis. Kayani Sunset product contains omega-3, tocotrienol, vitamin A and D, and also astaxanthin. Omega-3. Omega-3 vascularize all the 30,000 miles of artery in our body. In so doing, it's able to allow the nutrients to go all the way through it. As well, the Kayani Sunset contains astaxanthin. And astaxanthin, scientists call this a singlet oxygen protector, which means that it protects it at the very, very deep inside the cell. Tocotrienol is a lipid oxygen protector, which is on the cell surface. So together, the tocotrienol and the astaxanthin, one on the surface protection and one inside the cell protection. That situation of Kayani Sunset is incredibly unique. The Sunset product contains a unique combination of tocotrienol and omega-3. This is special because the omega-3 vascularize all the 30,000 miles of artery we have. In so doing, it's able to allow the tocotrienol to be delivered to the 7.5 trillion cell, 1,000 times the population of the earth. If the blood vessel is constricted, then that is not possible. Interestingly, this is also our triangle product, where the nitro would vascularize all our arteries as well. Now, when it comes to Sunset, Sunset doesn't do the vascularization, but Sunset is actually the truck that contains all the goodies, only nutrient dense. So if the other two, Sunset and nitro, would vascularize, then the nutrient would be able to be delivered, just like the tocotrienol in the Sunset. So together they work as a triangle. Who would best benefit from taking this? Especially for people who would support and promote a chronic health. These would be the people who can best benefit from this. Kayani Sunset contains the Amazonia annatto tocotrienol, that is tocopherol-free, very special. It also contains the Alaskan fish oil, omega-3, pristine, and also very special. And together is able to provide protection to the 30,000 miles of artery through our entire body. It is a fantastic combination to protect our health, particularly in protecting our lipid health, which is about 25% of our body weight. I consider this to be a highly recommended and highly useful product.